the human back into ISO 27001, and today we're going to do a live on ISO 27001 clause 4.3 scope. So we are live. We're going to roar we're going to roar this bad boy, right? As always, while I wait for a few people to join, and you may or you may not, you can comment, right? So if you are with me and you want to give me some support, this is the third one clearly in the series. So if you want to give me some support, your comments will appear here. We can do a test and see how the chat works. So questions on scope, questions on clause 4.3, questions or comments on the poster. It's entirely up to you. What we're going to do in this video, what we're going to do in this live stream, answer your questions around scope. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to show you how you can satisfy this requirement in a couple of minutes. I'm going to give you the fish. I'm going to give you the fish to feed you. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of a step back and I'm going to teach you how to fish. So I'm going to show you how you can do it a little bit more rigorously and a little bit more correctly, right? So here is the trick. This is how you do it. Here is the detail about what goes in at the back of that. The resources that you have, as always. So we're going to base it off of the blogs on the website. You head over to the High Table website. On the High Table website, there are blogs and guides on absolutely everything, right? For this particular clause, you're going to come across, you're going to go into resources. You're going to check ISO 27001 reference guide. If you want Annex A controls, you're going to click Annex A controls. If you want a free AI assistant, you're going to choose the AI assistant. But in this case, we're going to choose the 27001 reference guide. You're going to come down here and you're going to select clause 4.3. There are actually supplementary blogs. I've got 10-step how to implement for every clause, 10 steps how to audit, and then I've got these detailed blogs that go through it. So this one for scope, you can see here, I'm going to come back to it. I just want you to know that it's here. It goes through what is clause 4.3, how to implement it, how to audit it, how to define scope, and I actually give you examples of scope statements as well. So we're going to come back to that, but that's just a resource. If you wanted to do the deep dive, jump off of the Q&A, that's entirely up to you. In addition to that, you are aware I have a ISO 27001 YouTube channel, somewhere in the region of around about 10,000, 10,500 followers, around about 1,200 videos. You can see the kind of things that I go through in here, deep dives on each of the clauses, cheapest way, version 27,022 version versus 2313 version. I even do things to support consultants, so secrets of the consultant exposed, consultant training, etc., how to break into cybersecurity. So I'm not going into that. I'm just showing you that that is a resource that exists, that is out on the internet. So scope, you may join me, you may not join me. I'm seeing a comment. I don't know how this thing works. I don't know if there's anybody watching now live or not, right? When it comes to our ISO 27001, ISO 27001 is an information security management system. It's not an information security standard per se. It's a management system. It's about how we manage information security. The mandatory requirements of ISO 27001 are clauses 4 through 10, of which this is one, 4.3 scope. So what we're going to do is we're going to build our management system in basic terms, right? We're going to build our protection, and then we're going to apply that management system to something. And the thing that we apply it to is called the scope. What we are going to find ourselves in is a position as GRC professionals is that we may well deploy the information security management system across the board. We may do that, but there are limited resources, right? We've got limited time, we've got limited budget. So what we're going to do is we're going to narrow the scope of all of this bureaucracy that 27001 comes with to the thing that is most important to us. So what I say, fast tracking it before we get into it, is I'm teaching you, I'm giving you the fish to feed you. What we're going to look at is what is the thing that our customer is interested in. When our customer buys a product or service from us, what is that thing that they expect us to be certified for? So if we were on our online CRM system, they would expect that our scope would cover the online CRM system, right? This is an expensive process. It's a bureaucratic process. It's not hard to implement it, right? I mean, that's how I make my living, is showing you how easy it is. But there is a lot that goes around it. And what we don't want to do is say, oh, here's a broom cupboard. You know, our broom cupboard is 27001 when client and customer is buying a CRM from us. And it's that they expect. Otherwise, we go through all of that time and expense And at the end of it, it doesn't meet the requirement, right? The client just goes no. So what do? We ask our, within our company, so we're going to ask around, what do we think that should be in scope? We're going to look at our customer contracts. We're going to ask our customers potentially, or our customers will have told us. Most of you are going to be implementing 27001 for a commercial reason. That commercial reason is going to be either an ongoing contract or a new contract. So you already know what it is that they want to protect. But it's literally that simple, right? Here is the thing that we want to protect. This is the scope of our information security management system. What we narrow that down to ultimately is what they call a scope statement. A scope statement is a couple of sentences, one sentence or a couple of sentences that goes on our certificate that the customer and the client eventually sees. So it says, you know, this is what we are ISO 27001 certified for. So what I'm going to do is give you some examples of that and show you that as well. So before we go through our like teaching you how to fish, let's give you the fish and let's feed you, right? So you know that I am the ISO 27001 Ninja, author of the Ultimate ISO 27001 Toolkit. I have the ultimate ISO 27001 Toolkit, of which this is part, right? The documented ISMS scope. Were you to go onto the website and you didn't want to buy the whole toolkit, well, gosh knows why, you just go to templates and you'd search in here for all the various individual templates that I've got, and you would purchase the scope template. Or you will pause this and you will copy it and you will type it, right? So how would I do it? What I would do is I would come in, I would create a documented scope, right? It is a requirement. We're going to look in a minute when I teach you how to fish about what the standard says. It will be available as documented information. So it has to be documented. We would create a documented scope, or you will buy this and you will follow this, you know, couple of dollars. It's nothing, right? But and then you would complete this. What does scope look like? Scope looks like a scope statement. So within the templates that I give you an example scope statement. And on the website, I give you 13 examples. I think I give you a scope generator so you can do it. You can ask AI. But we're going to document what our scope statement is. So you can see here, I'm saying list in the in-scope products and services, right? So an online CRM system, we use that as the example. So our scope statement is online CRM system in accordance with the statement of applicability version 1, version 1.1, version 1.2. Nice and easy. Teaching you how to fish in a moment, I'm going to tell you what a statement of applicability is. That is your scope statement, right? That's what's going to go on your certificate. That defines what your scope is. What we are going to do, what you are going to do is you're going to define from an internal point of view, and so that you can explain it to an auditor, what your internal interpretation of that is in your world and in your reality. So what we're going to do is you're going to list out all of your products and services. It's going to be nice and easy. So everything that you do and everything that you sell, you're going to list that and you're going to separate that to in scope and out of scope. So if you have online CRM is in scope. You may have an online SEO platform. You may have an online banking, accounting platform, and they may be out of scope. But what we are doing here is we're articulating to ourselves and to the auditor, this is the entirety of who we are and what we do. And this is the specifics of what it is that is in scope and what we want to control. We repeat that process then for our locations. So we're going to document, these are the locations. If you imagine a multi-site organization, it may well be that multi-jurisdiction, multiple geographies, if you have physical presence, but it may well be that your data center in Australia is out of scope, your data center in the US is in scope. So we're clearly articulating our physical locations, what they are, where they are, and whether or not they're in scope or not. This will also become important when you do your certification audit, because if there are physical sites that the certification body needs to visit, they need to know what they are. And then they'll make a decision on whether or not they sample that, or whether or not they visit every single one. That's going to impact your cost, right? So we're going to do our locations. We're going to do our departments, and the usual way that we do this is we link to a HR organization chart that shows everybody, and then we write a virtual box around the departments that are actually in scope. So again, it may well be that, okay, you've got 10 dev teams geographically dispersed, but only one of those dev teams supports the online CRM system. You call it, I don't know, dev team alpha, and it is those that are in scope. and then beta, kappa, gamma, etc. Are out of scope. But you're clearly articulating, you're clearly understanding what your scope is. Then what we do is we provide some information around technology, and we provide some information around network. This is about documentation, right? There's nothing in the scope here really that you don't know. And if you don't know it, we've got a problem, right? So what I'm doing is, from a technology point of view, I, as an auditor, like to see, and I, as an implementer, like my clients, to be able to articulate what the technology is that makes up that online system. And I want them to be able to do it in a way that meets multiple levels of abstraction. So if I have an online CRM system, I may like to see a high-level cloud diagram about super high level, how these things connect together. Then I might want to break that down into data centers. Then I might want to break that down into server and virtual server diagrams. And ultimately, it's going to cascade all the way down into an asset register, right? Everything that's in scope, all the in-scope assets at the minutiae level are going to end up in the asset register. So we'll come to that further on. But I want documentation that clearly describes the entirety of how our systems hang together, and then to virtual box around what is it that is actually in scope for the certification. Same with the network, right? So we talk about network segmentation, network layering, etc. But I want to see the interconnections, and I want to see which parts of the network are in scope. Which parts are you protecting? Internal wireless networks, like maybe, right? You might have got internal virtual networks, external networks. So you should be able to set out a network diagram and then be able to draw a virtual box around that that shows me which part of that network is in scope. And that's it. That's it. Right? Took me longer to articulate to you how to do it than it did. But then it will do for you to fill it in. Again, no questions, right? These are early days. These are early days. So no issue with it. So scope. Scope is the thing that we're trying to protect. We're reducing the scope. We're narrowing the scope down because we want to make sure that the thing that we're protecting, we can evidence to our customers and our clients, because that's what has commercial value to us. We may include things in scope that are of high risk or of interest to us. So we're going to be asking like our interested parties. We're going to be looking at our internal and external issues, going through our contracts with our with our customers, asking our legal teams, etc. But we're trying to narrow that scope down so we can protect what's important to us. We understand that the wider the scope, the more the cost, and specifically when it comes to your external certification, right? If you have 10 physical locations, so you say it's the entirety of my entire company, right? Let's run that scenario. My whole company is in scope. I want to certify my entire company. And you have 10 locations. So in that instance, the auditor is going to have to visit 10 locations and then audit the SOA Annex A controls that you say that apply to your organization in each of those 10 locations, right? So you've got an auditor visiting, you've got auditor visitor days, you've got TNL that's on top of that, right? So that's just one example. What we've also got is, if you say the entirety of your business, imagine things like your holiday booking form, right? Your maternity, paternity leave booking form, your managerial and employee appraisal system, things that customer and client isn't really bothered about. But by saying your entire company, you've now brought that into scope. So what that means is that the auditor is going to audit that. It's going to take more audit days. It's going to look at things that you may not have put the rigor in, you might not have done, that you would have done for the thing that's got commercial value for you. And you're just giving yourself more work to do. My advice, and people may comment the same, is normally like start small, right? If I'm going for certification for the first time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply it to the minimum, like the thing that is the most important, the one that makes me the most money. And there is no problem over time increasing the scope, right? There is no problem bringing in additional things. This isn't like, oh, we've got to get everything done before it's got to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to get everything done. And what you can do is you can increase the scope over time as it becomes more appropriate. If you want to bring in new locations, additional business units, additional departments, additional products, additional services, that is absolutely a viable thing to do. So thankfully, no questions. So far, no questions. So let me give you just teaching you how to fish, right? I'm not going to read through. It's not my intent today to read through, but I've referenced earlier in this particular Q&A, there is a detailed blog on that. As we go through the detailed blog, What I talk about in there and what I share with you is the official definition. So we can share that now when you're trying to do this, whether you're trying to do it fast or do it right. What does the standard actually want? And here we're looking at the organization shall determine the boundaries and applicability of the information security management system to establish its scope, which is what I said. When determining the scope, you're going to consider external and internal issues. The requirements referred to in 4.2, which are the requirements of interested parties. And then we're going to look at the interfaces and dependencies between activities performed by the organization and those that are performed by other organizations, right? So that's that virtual boundary around our networks, around our servers, around our services, around our processes, to help us to come up with what that scope should look like. I give you some guidance then on linking that context to the scope. I give you, as with always, about how this can apply to different business models. If you're a small business, tech startup, an AI company, then what we do is we go through a how to implement. Now, on the website, there are even more detailed how to, right? So I have a 10-step how to implement, a 10-step how to audit, additional blog that supports this. But here, I give you the good stuff and the minimum stuff, where we talk about how do you define it, about defining your organizational boundaries, where I've just explained about listing out all of your products and services and then choosing which ones are in, about asking your customers which products and services they expect to be in scope, asking your leadership team. So all of the things that I've just said in a really high level, we go into a little bit more detail about how you can do that. Determining the scope exclusions, so what is in, what is out of scope, documenting that, writing your scope statement, getting that managerial management approval, right? So again, it is not the role of the information security officer or the ISO 27001 implementer to tell the company what the scope is. The company decides what the scope is, and then the management team signs that off. The top ninja tip here is, once I've got my scope statement and I've defined my scope, I'm choosing my certification body, and I'm always running my scope past my certification body, right? I'm getting on the phone and saying, look, I'm a little bit unsure. Does this feel about right? This is who we are. And because you are going to be buying a certification service from them, they are going to be in a position where they're going to want to help you, right? So they will help you to verify that as well. But we're going to get that signed off. Or okay, I said it at the bottom, right? Verify the scope statement with the certification body. I can't even read my own blog. I'm not good, right? So we're going to give a call to that certification body, and we're going to get the feedback from those guys as well. No issue. I give you guidance in there, again, if you want the deep dive on how to define interactions with third parties, the shared responsibility matrix. And then, as always, I give you tips like, as an ISO 27001 lead auditor, what does a lead auditor look for, right? What are the things that I will be looking for? What will other auditors be looking for, with some top tips around that? Some documentation around how to document your scope. If you don't use the scope document that I provide, or copy it, or download it, or use it, or get the toolkit, then I give you some guidance around how you should do that. Some talk around version control, and then more detail about what auditors look for, right? So a lot about the reality gap. Again, based on experiences, based on conducting audits, what are the kind of things that auditors are going to look for? We said we want to approve the scope, but how? So I give you guidance, detailed guidance on how. And then what is an auditor going to look for in terms of that approval cycle? What was it that they typically expect to see? Why approval can't be delegated, as I've just said at the beginning. It is not the information security manager, it's not the ISO 27001 manager's job to dictate what the scope is, and you can't just delegate that approval down, right? This is a leadership system. It's a management system from the top down. Management has to provide the approval and sign off, right? They're going to get audited on their understanding of it anyway. Then I give you the example of the scope statement. So you can pause here and take a copy of it, or you can come across to the blog and copy it. And then I give you more examples as well based on real world experiences. So, come along and have a look. For SaaS platforms, fintech startup statement, e-commerce, health provider, manufacturing, education, AI development, HR, payroll, outsourcing, etc. Right? It starts for 10 potentially. Some people use them as is. Some people add in to them. And don't forget that the scope statement is always qualified with in accordance with the statement of applicability, and then the version number of the statement of applicability. Why is that? Because the statement of applicability is the list of Annex A controls, the controls that have been known to mitigate risks. And what the statement of applicability says is which controls you've said apply to you, which ones are you actually implementing, which ones are you not implementing, and why are you not implementing them. So typically, if I was going to do a due diligence, I would ask for a 27001 STIF certificate, which says your management system is on point. Then I want a copy of your SOA because I want to see what controls you've implemented. What are the technical controls that you've implemented into your organization? Now, I know that you can accept the risk of weak control, no control, so I've got more work to do, but at least it's a starter for 10. So the certificate that you have will always have that on it, right? It anchors the scope statement to the control set at the point in time that the audit was conducted. I give you guidance then on how to de-scope to reduce audit. And I've just talked about that, about why de-scoping the audit is a good idea, like from a resource point of view, from a workload point of view. And I give you some guidance again on how you can do that and how that will become appropriate for you. I share with you in here the template, but I've just shared that with you, but for people that are reading it. And then I start to give you some proper ninja level deep insights, right? So why climate change matters. It's not for this, you can go and read it. But with the changes in the 2022 Amendment 1, when they started to talk about climate change, then how can that impact the scope? We talked last time, right? This is one of my biggest, I guess one of my biggest bugbears, in that everybody's pushing for climate change, and yet now everybody's pushing for AI. Now in the governance, risk and compliance space, where everybody's saying continual monitoring AI, I'm not sure how we mirror up protecting the planet and climate change with the huge amounts of resources that are being consumed to facilitate these AI platforms. So that's by the by. But I talk about that, the strategic impact of climate change and how it links to the ISMS boundaries, how to update your scope potentially to include climate change in the Amendment 1 changes, some guidance really on why you would want to go with a documentation toolkit like mine rather than a GRC, SaaS GRC platform, right? I'm not here to evangelize. You can use whatever you want, right? And then I'm giving you the guides, how to audit it, the 10 steps. There's an audit checklist, 10 audit checklist points, exactly how to audit it, exactly what to look for, how to pass the audit, common mistakes that people make. So why organizations that I've seen usually fail this, and then what auditors look for. So again, so these are the things that you might, mistakes, please don't make them. And then what does an auditor look for? It's top 3 mistakes. Then we're into some proper advanced guidance, right? I don't intend to carry on anymore, right? I'm just going to show you, but here we've got things around like shadow IT. I link it to the other standards. So other laws, other regulations, other standards. I've got direct mappings. I've got the inclusion of those, where the boundaries are, where the overlaps are. Huge pieces around AI, if you were interested in that. Audit logic trees that we can go through. Scoping the integrated management system. So when we have an integrated management system with 9001, 42001, etc. MMA, mergers and acquisition, scoping nightmare, etc., etc. Right. So I'm not going to go through all of that. You've got the point, right? You've got the point. So you have today in this live Q&A, where thankfully no one's asked me any questions again, I have shown you resources that you can get a deep dive in terms of the blog that walks you through it, the YouTube channel where you can get additional access and additional more formal training rather than the Q&A approach. You've seen the template that you can download, and you know that it's part of the ISO 27001 toolkit, the ultimate 27001 toolkit, and still selling, right? Still selling a lot. I sold like 2 consultant toolkits today. You know, they still go well because they're auditor verified, they're certification body approved, and they just work, right? I've been doing this for 5 years. You've watched my videos, right? The proof is in the pudding, right? So I've given you the templates. I've given you the toolkit for that, and I've shown you, and I've walked you through it at a high level. I'm going to keep doing the Q&As, right? I think they're good. They get more views after, right, when they save. like the YouTube, LinkedIn versions, right? They get a lot of views and a lot of likes. And I know that I get lovely comments from you and people saying how much they do value them. So I am going to continue with them. Because I'm the ISO 27001 Ninja, they're like pop-ups, right? Like you never know what time of the day I'm going to do it. So I do myself a disservice by not having a regular slot where I do go live. Maybe I'll rethink that. Maybe I'll rethink that going forward. Now I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with the technology. So my name is Stuart Barker, the ISO 27001 Ninja, author of the Ultimate ISO 27001 Toolkit. That was ISO 27001 Clause 4.3 Scope. And until the next live and QA, peace out. End stream as we press the button.